Welcome to the Peaceful Entrepreneur Podcast, where together we're learning how to have peace in the process of everyday business ownership by improving one step at a time how we think and what we do. I'm your host, Amy Stout. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Thank you for joining me again this week. It is so special to have you here, and I'm excited to continue my story that I started back in episode 53 about what's been going on the last few months, some realizations I've had, some changes I'm making. And so now we are on to my second strategic hire that I'm making as part of my just mini revamp. My response to the realization that I have to stop doing this all by myself, and I have to bring people in who are going to operate in their zone of genius so that they can take stuff off my plate, and then I can operate fully in my zone of genius. So that's what we're going for, and that's what we are currently still actively working toward. I've said it before, but I'm still kind of in process here. A lot has been realized, a lot has been started to change. A lot has been realized, and I've started to make quite a few changes, but I am not on the other end to where I can see all of the results of all of the changes yet. So it'll be a fun journey to continue to take you along. And that's really what I enjoy about this podcast is I made a podcast called The Peaceful Entrepreneur because I am an entrepreneur pursuing peace. And the business that I have, I directly take my experiences and lessons from that and I put them into this podcast. And so it is a reflection and a documentation for myself, and it is hopefully an encouragement to you. And I always say too, if I can go through something and have to struggle through it myself and then just tell you about it so you don't have to struggle through it, I would much rather that. So I'm always happy to share because if I can make your life just a little bit easier, I'm here for it. So we are talking today about me hiring an operations strategist, which was such a cool thing to do. And the amount of times that I have said to her, "You are saving my life." It's comical at this point, and I feel like she has to be tired of hearing me say thank you because I feel like I say it after every single message. Like, thank you so much for everything you're doing. You're the best. And this is going to basically be an episode about how amazing this girl is that I have hired, but more importantly about why this hire has changed the game for me truly. And I know I'm going to keep saying that. Like I said that last week about the bookkeeper. I'll say it again next week about the next hire, but it's true. Like it is actually changing the game, moving the needle, changing the trajectory of the business, opening me up to the capacity to grow beyond what I ever dreamed. And I'm really not being dramatic. Like that is literally what is happening. So I am going to just be sharing all about how I came to the point of deciding I needed to hire someone to help me with operations and strategy, to how I found her, and then to how working together has been so far and what we're planning to do in the future. So that's kind of what we're walking through today. So of course, we have to start back the place that I know that we've all talked about too many times, so I don't need to re-say it any more than this, but we all know I've been tired, right? I did take some time to recover last December, so I started this year with quite a bit of energy and ambition. So it started off well. The energy just didn't really continue. But I had a lot of ambitions at the beginning of the year, and I did an amazing yearly planning session where I used Jess Massey's Hustle Sanely yearly planner as my guide, and I kind of created my goals and my plans for when I was going to do each thing and the focuses that I was going to work on that year for the business, or this year for the business. And a lot of it ended up being operations. like back-end operations optimizing, because the day-to-day of how our operations run with our team and our clients is great. But when it comes to like a documented onboarding process for clients and automating that process and making my invoicing process smoother, all of those things had just kind of been functioning like how I came up with them to function. And nothing was documented, nothing was standardized. And I realized that if I wanted to scale the business and start to bring other people into it to help me manage it and run it, I needed to document those things. So at the beginning of the year, that was kind of what I set out to do, is like for first half of the year, it's usually quieter from January to June in our business. So I was like, that's what I'm going to focus on. And I started off strong. I was working on stuff, but I got to a certain point where the tiredness was coming back, and I had to admit to myself that I wasn't going to be able to finish the list myself, whether that be in the timing that I set up or whether that be, it's like I had to either pick slow it down and spread it out or bring someone in to help me make it happen faster. And I ultimately decided that slowing it down probably wouldn't actually help because my brain power was so depleted. And also, operations isn't necessarily my cup of tea. Like it's something that I can do, but it's not something that I thrive in. So when I started to feel this nudge to bring someone in to help me with that, I kind of started to run with that because I was like, okay, this is going to be great because they're going to do it better and faster than I ever would. And I don't have to spend the brain power. I am at the point where I'm comfortable spending money. And so I will gladly trade my effort for my money at this point. And that's what I pursued. So I had a couple of leads, and it's actually hilarious, the one that ended up working out. So I got a message from Tiffany back around when I started this podcast, like the summer after I started it. So a year ago around this time, I got a message from Tiffany and I had never met her before, but she's like, "Hey, Amy, a mutual friend of ours told me about your podcast. I've been listening to it. I just started my business, and I just want you to know that one of your episodes was extremely helpful and instrumental in me making some of those big foundational decisions in how to move forward with my business." And just to get that from a random stranger, like I tell you guys, your messages mean the most. Like it is so sweet to hear how this podcast is impacting you, but just wait till you hear the rest of this story. Cause I mean, it's crazy how God just uses the entire thing. So Tiffany messages me back then. We go back and forth a couple of times on Instagram. I thank her, can't wait to hear and see where your business goes, all of this stuff. About a year later, she reached out again, and she has been, listening to the podcast throughout that time. And she goes, "Hey, like we only live 30 minutes apart. I would love to grab coffee with you if you would be interested." And I was like, "Absolutely. I actually have another friend that I want to meet in your town. Let me just let you know when I'm planning to come over there and we can have coffee." Worked out great. And I ended up having the most social day because I talked to Tiffany for 2 hours and then I talked to the other friend for 2 hours, and I was just, extrovert me was living that day. But Tiffany and I just immediately hit it off. We had the best time. We were talking all about her business, my business, the podcast, just getting to know each other. And there was no ulterior motive or intention. Like this was legitimately just a get to know you conversation. So we had a great time, said goodbye, parted ways, and went along our way. It was around that time. This was early April. No, this was March. Yeah, this was March. So it was around that time, about two-ish months in of my ambitious list, that I was like, okay, maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this by myself. And Tiffany and another lead came in around the same time. And I was like, okay, these are both great. I explored one, didn't feel like the right fit. And so I reached out to Tiffany and I was like, "I think I might need to hire you is I think what I said. I like filled out her form on her website and was like, I think I actually need your services. And it was so cool because I just heard in detail all about what she does. And so we hopped on a call and she had already prepared a proposal for me and presented it to me on the call. And I was pretty much sold right away, but I've been trying to be wise and thoughtful and intentional and prayerful in my decisions lately, because in the past I feel like I've jumped into things and I've regretted it or just gotten myself into situations that I could have avoided. So I'm working on being a lot more thoughtful. So I really did actually think and pray on it for a couple of weeks about the financial aspect of it, talk to my bookkeeper about it, of course, talk to Luke about it, and ultimately just kept feeling right. It kept feeling like this is exactly what I need. The proposal that she wrote out, I was like, that is what I need. And it was so cool because also around that same time, I got 2 client leads and they both ended up becoming clients. And so I immediately had the funds to be able to pay for Tiffany. And it wasn't a stretch. It was just like God gave me those clients literally to provide for me to be able to hire her. It was so cool. I mean, when I tell you, people ask me how I find the people that are involved in my business, it's literally God. He just drops them in my lap all of the time and opens the doors and allows things to happen. And there's no other explanation. And I'm so, so grateful. So Tiffany and I started working together in April. And what I basically did is I took my list of all those things I wanted to work on. And I was like, here, can you do this? Or can you help me with this? Because I didn't really know like how much she would be doing versus how much I would be doing. But I was like, here's my brain dump. This is all I can offer you. I'm exhausted. Please help me. And she was just such a breath of fresh air when it came to that. Like she came in and she was like, yep, absolutely. I've done all of this stuff before. I'm super comfortable with it. We can absolutely make this happen. And she immediately got to work. And let me tell you, like, she has been such a blessing to me in so many ways. But in one particular way that's been very meaningful is she has been to me what I am to a lot of my clients. Because a lot of time with our clients, they'll be like, I want to do this, 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 and this, and whatever. And I'll be like, okay, cool. Yeah, we can make that happen for you. And I make it happen. And I organize the tasks and I rally the troops and I get the people to do the things. And like, that's what I do for people. And so to have someone do that for me was so special because it's different when it's yourself. Even if you're good at it, it's different to do it for yourself. So having her be in that place of support for me has been incredible. She organized all of our tasks and put a timeline on them. And truly, like on our first meeting, I was like, so how much work and homework should I expect from this? And she was like, honestly, Amy, like I will do the work. You just meet with me, give me the information I need, approve the things that I send over. And then of course, the things that only you can do, like filing your taxes, like of course you have to do those things, but otherwise I'll handle it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I wasn't expecting to lighten my load so much. And retrospectively thinking about it now, dude, we went under contract for our house at the end of March. We closed at the end of April. We moved mid-May. Like I would not have been able to do anything if I didn't have Tiffany. The needle would not have been moved in the last 3 months if she was not on with me because I was so preoccupied. And I was literally doing like the bare minimum, and the bare minimum was all I could handle, truly. So again, the Lord with the timing of bringing her in, and I just feel that he wants this business to thrive, and he does things for me to allow that to happen, even when I don't realize that that's what's going on. And so that's kind of what I view that as, is like, okay, he wanted us to have a really big building year and a really big foundation setting year. I think we're setting up for a really big scaling year next year. So I think that this year was meant to be those final pieces of the foundation, because I've been building the foundation for 3 years experimentation, figuring out what works, then figuring out how to do what works well. That's what I've done myself. And now that I know what works and have figured out a good way to do it, Tiffany is helping me polish and turn everything into an actual functional company that I can eventually not have to be involved in, because it's all on paper in the task manager. People are trained, and it's just like, it's actually running as a company and as a full-blown business. So that's what this year has turned into. And it has really been amazing to have her support in this time. So, and another thing is I have immediately been able to see how perfectly gifted Tiffany is to do these things. Because remember how I said I could, but they weren't my bread and butter. This is her bread and butter. She built a whole business doing operations and strategy. And she has a whole 15-year career before she started her business of doing this for huge companies. And so this is her thing. So the fact even that I can afford her with her experience and that she's willing to work with small companies like me and pour that expertise into us, again, just another thing that I'm like, Lord, this is amazing. Like, I don't deserve this. And so it's been really cool to see and observe like her working in her genius and doing her thing. And I truly feel like all of these things are being done so much better than I ever could have done them myself, and with so much less mental effort, because she's just good at it and she's done it a million times. So we've been working together since the beginning of April. We've knocked a lot of stuff off of my list. Some of them were bigger projects, so we've been kind of like gradually working on them. Other things we've just like knocked out. It's been amazing. And during that time was also when I had the realization that I needed to make my third strategic hire, which I will reveal to you next week. But I had that role on my radar, and I basically thought it was going to be a longer term goal, but the Lord made it very clear in conjunction with another revelation that I had, which is another announcement later. Sorry to be annoying, but like, got to keep you on your toes, right? But I had a realization of something that I needed to do. And because of that, I realized in order to do that thing, I needed to make this hire. And so Tiffany took it in stride because it wasn't on the original plan that we set out for, but she was like, okay, let's do this. She helped me with the job description. She helped me with the interview questions. She helped me introduce the person to the rest of our team. She helped me figure out everything that needed to be done to bring this person in, to lay out all of the agendas for all of our trainings, like the timeline. She helped me with all of it. And I hadn't even ever, I still haven't fully thought about how integral her role was in bringing this third person on. It would have been so much harder for me if I had to do it by myself. Again, could have done it, would have been difficult, would have worn me out even more, would not have been done as well. That is just the truth of it. So truly, just to give you a sample of what Tiffany has done, she has created new forms for my clients, for my team, and updated the forms that I've had. She's integrated new automations. She's done a lot of research for me on market research, other people who are doing what I'm doing, how we can make our stuff better, researching different platforms for us to use to optimize things. She's done other random little admin tasks that I just didn't want to do. She's just she loves to just knock off a to-do list. She's found holes in my strategy. She's helped me identify problem spots and issues, and also open my eyes to be like, you could do this, you could do that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just had not thought it possible, and also probably had not entertained it because I knew I couldn't do it by myself. But now that I have someone on my side, multiple people to support me in it, I'm like, oh yes, we could do that. And it's so, so cool. She's also such a good question asker. She asks me questions that I would not think to ask myself. And that has also been really helpful. And just like I already said, the wisdom that she holds from her experience with project management and operations. She was a chief of staff at one point. Like, she knows her stuff. And she offers so much stability and clarity and wisdom. And I just can't say enough about it. So the ways that it's personally impacted me and the ways that she has changed, is changing, and will continue to change my business are she shares the mental load with me. She accomplishes tasks that I don't have the energy for. She takes care of the task management so that I can just be the brain dump, and then she handles it like I already said. She helps me brainstorm. She supports all the random entrepreneurial musings and thoughts that I have. I'll send her voice messages at like 11 p.m. It's on Slack, so she's not getting it. We have boundaries, guys. But I'll still send it and be like, hey, so I had this thought, blah, 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 blah. And she runs with it. She always is super accepting and respectful of all of my ideas. And she also validates the things that I have already done and done well about my business. Because sometimes for me, I'm like, if I see one thing wrong, then I'm like, oh, everything must be wrong. And so it means a lot, especially with her wisdom and experience, for her to say like, no, you're doing really good. Like, this is great what you've got right here. You're doing this really well. And so she is like telling me the blind spots, but she's also validating and affirming what I'm doing well and the things that I might discount and not recognize in myself. So that is also a blessing. And then lastly, she is willing to be a part of my team. With this new hire, the three of us are honestly probably going to be doing a lot of collaboration, and it makes me so excited. I just think we're going to be such a power team and be able to accomplish so much. So you'll hear way more about that in next episode when I tell you about that hire. But something interesting about my time working with Tiffany has been that I don't feel like I have been fully mentally present for all of it. I have genuinely felt in a fog, and we already know why: the tiredness, the moving, the life transition, right? And it's been interesting to be able to recognize that about myself. Like, I'll realize, like, some days I'll be in a good space and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I have not been here fully on previous meetings, but I have still shown up, and Tiffany has shown up with everything that she's got every day. And she bared with it, and she accepted me where I was at and didn't make me feel bad, and affirmed that, yeah, maybe I need a little bit of extra rest, or, whatever that was. And so for that reason, I also recognize that there are probably things that she's done that I haven't even recognized and appreciated fully yet. And that's why I'm excited to follow up on this. Like, I don't know when, but in a few months, coming back and being like, here's how things are going now with this power team that I told you about. And I'm excited to reflect and share more about that. So I know I've just been like talking her up this whole time. I do want to do an episode with Tiffany so that you can hear straight from her like what we've been working on, because I think that would be really cool. But I will go ahead and link her information in the description so you can check her out now. But just know that an episode with her will be coming. And a big reason that will be happening is because she and I are going to be continuing to work together. So when we initially signed on for a 3-month package. I extended that for a 4th month. We just needed that extra time to finish up a few of the projects that we've been working on. But I also decided along the course of things that I didn't want this to just be a temporary come in and help me and then go. Because with the motto of I'm not doing everything by myself anymore, that means that the support that I bring in, I need to keep. Because if I just let her go, I could go back to where I was before. And I don't want that. And because the Lord has blessed me with the finances to be able to keep her on, I am. And so she is going to be our fractional COO. Some people may become familiar with that term, but Fractional basically means she acts as the COO of our company, but she isn't actually on payroll with that role because we're such a small business. So she's a contracted COO basically, and she's going to be on, and we will meet twice a month, and she will continue to do work behind the scenes, and she will really help me drive my strategy and the forward motion and the plans that we have for expanding this business into next year and beyond. So she'll be around. Her role will like slightly shift, like it'll shift out of the set up the foundational operations into create the strategy to grow and help execute. And then my other new hire will help execute so that I can just be the visionary, like strictly the visionary, which is all I want. Is I just want to be the visionary for multiple businesses. That is what I think my genius is come up with the ideas, discern what the right direction is to go, and then hand it off to someone else trusted who can execute and get it done really well. So that is kind of where we are headed. And I really could not be more excited. It's like, it's getting closer and closer every day. So I will say, I feel like after this month of July, we will be in a really good place because Tiffany and I's projects will be mostly done. There will be a few struggling things that we continue, but mostly done. My new hire will be trained and onboarded, and we'll be in a really good place. And then something really exciting is coming in August, which is that other announcement that I'm going to reveal to you, which will be episode 59. So gotta wait a couple more weeks for that one, but it's coming. And it's a really big announcement. It really is. It's a big deal. And I'm really excited about it. So definitely check Tiffany out. Give her some love. Look forward to that episode with her. And get ready for next week where I reveal my third and final strategic hire that is making a load of difference in my role, my mental load that I'm carrying, and the trajectory of the future of the business as well. So thank you again for joining me today, this week. Don't forget to listen to the other episodes in the series starting at 53 if you haven't yet, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode. Don't forget to connect with us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and we would love it if you would leave a review wherever you're listening. We'll see you next week for more tips for how to become a peaceful entrepreneur.